everyone. How's it going? Thank you for being a part of the virtual PMO Virtual Summit. It's great to have you here. Today, we're going to be talking to Bill. Bill Dow is a recognized expert, a PMP, mind you, and a recognized expert in project management by the Project Management Institute of the PMI for specifically developing and managing project management offices, or PMOs. His extensive experience with project management and PMOs have enabled him to co-author several comprehensive books available through Amazon.com. Bill has presented and ran several workshops on PMO and project management conferences around the world, including United Kingdom, Canada, and the United States. Bill has taught at the college level for more than 25 years in Washington State, British Columbia, and Ontario, Canada, and has worked at Microsoft for more than 13 years. He has spoken at multiple PMI conferences, breakfasts, and events nationally. ProjectManagement.com and ProjectTimes.com host numerous articles by Bill currently. Bill, welcome and great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
So Bill, I know that, you and I and a few others really interested about, PMOs, yes, that's there, but we're a lot more interested in, frankly speaking, a bit sort of concerned about the PMO leadership, right? You have, PMOs are business units at the end of the day. And the way you have an accounting department, the way you have an IT department, the way you have a procurement department, a marketing department, whatever have you, and you have heads of them, people who lead those departments, there's a pretty clear career path for most of them. That's number one. Number two, you never talk about people questioning why an accounting department needs to exist, or why an IT department needs to exist, or why a marketing department needs to exist, let alone their success rate. You never hear about, oh my God, how successful is our accounting department, or how successful is our IT department. But with PMOs, I'm not sure why the situation is where only 50% of PMOs quote unquote succeed within 3 years of their existence, right? That means you're flipping a coin and you're wondering, all right, is the PMO going to succeed or not? It's literally comes down to that level of probability. And so, what does that mean? What does that mean for PMOs? Is it on the organization that the PMOs exist? Is it on PMO leadership? Where does it all start? And I know that we're sort of getting into conversation. You and I have spoken as well about PMO leadership as a profession. Are people really thinking of PMO leadership as a career, as a profession, and consciously getting themselves into positions so that they can acquire it, right? And I know a lot of people have a lot of thoughts around this. Some people think about it from a traditional perspective. Some people think about it from a methodology standpoint, right? People are saying, agile PMOs. People talk about waterfall PMOs or traditional PMOs. And then there's this whole notion right now of also the modern PMO. Where is the PMO going towards? What are the expectations of the organization, and how should the leadership role evolve as a whole? I'll take a step back now, Bill, and just hear your thoughts on this concept. PMO leadership as a profession.
You covered two components. One was the PMO as a business unit, and the other one is really around the profession itself. And so let's just talk about that I think it's critical. From a profession perspective, leadership, PMO leadership, I think it's critical. And so let's think about this for a sec. When you think about the project management world, you think about three big roles: portfolio, program, and project. They've been the staple of PMI for years, right? Everyone agrees. They have professions, they have certifications, they have training. They've been recognized for years and years and years. Everyone would agree to that. But what is the one role that they all roll up to? And that typically is the PMO manager, right? And it's crazy that PMI has not jumped on that, right? And offered the same certification, the same training, the same industry recognition. I'm surprised at that. But let's do this. Let's do a little experiment. If you go to LinkedIn and look for project management jobs, you get 7,825 jobs. Now that's not, there's no filter on location. 7,825 jobs are currently out there for PMOs, managers. Does that warrant a profession? Are they perfect matches? No, they're not perfect matches. Do the number of jobs warrant a profession? I don't know, but let's keep going. If you filter that down, you get about 3,600 in the United States, 40 in Canada, 899 in United Kingdom, right? If you look at Glassdoor, they have 3,960 in just the US alone, right? Because I think they're just US. So search engine after search engine, job engine after job engine, basically says that, hey, there's a massive need for PMO leaders across the world, right? So does that warrant a profession? I'd say probably, but let's even do this. Let's look at Webster's. So what's the definition of a profession? Well, they've got multiple, but 4A says calling required specialized knowledge and often long and intensive academic preparation. Think about that for a sec, right? Calling requiring specific specialized knowledge, right? Of course, PMO managers need specialized knowledge. A PMO in manufacturing, a PMO in research, a PMO in IT, you're going to require some specialized knowledge, right? I couldn't take my IT PMO and go and put a construction PMO in place. No, you need that knowledge, right? So if you even go back to Webster's and you look at what does a profession, what's the definition of a profession? And so I strongly believe that PMO leadership believe in that needs to be a profession. You think about the skill sets of leadership, communications, team management, executive presence, right? These are all critical business knowledge. These are all critical skill sets that require certification, right? Leadership certification and executive presence, right? These are all things that definitely encompass the role of a PMO manager. And so, yeah, I'm very, very passionate about it needing to be a profession.
Thanks for that perspective.
Yeah.
That, and I think that what we've noticed, Bill, is that the way it's treated in Europe, the way the PMO is considered in North America, and maybe the way it's done and considered in the rest of the world, it could be done differently, or rather, there are differences in how a PMO is treated or expected to work, and the expectations are different. That's fine.
And I don't think the skill sets of the individuals in Europe are better than the United States or better than Australia. I think everyone's got roughly the same skill sets. It's the businesses in those respective companies and how they've embraced them. And so to your earlier point, where you said the PMOs are business units, I 100% agree with that statement. However, when you talk to these companies, these North American-based companies, that's a bit of a hard pill to swallow. And until we get everyone agreeing to that and saying, yes, a PMO is a business unit, until we get that, you're going to really struggle. And so the need for that profession becomes, even more strong, right? Is yes, you've got this professional certified person that's got all these credentials, and they're going to run this business unit as a professionally certified person runs HR, runs finance, right? You got to get them at the same level.
And so what do you think, Bill, could be done or should be done to achieve that?
Yeah, so there's been lots of, like, the folks in the UK are kind of knocking it out of the park, right? And so they're doing these flash mobs and they're doing these there's certifications over in the UK, right? They're doing the training, they're changing the mindsets of businesses. And I think from a North American perspective, we've got to jump on some of that same components. We've got to get that out there. We've got to change the mindsets of businesses to get them to adopt this business unit concept. And I think that's a huge starting point. Until we do that, it's going to be a struggle. And
so
you also got to get the PMO managers that are in these roles starting to talk that same way, right?
Right. That's a great point. And I was about to actually talk about, their plight, if you will, right? Because firstly, they are there's a lot of PMO managers who are either brought into the role to set up someone up, set up a PMO
Yep.
because the organization has finally realized, oh my God, I think we need a PMO. Or,
Yep.
there are situations where, people who are not officially PMO managers, but feel that they need to set up a PMO because it's really needed in their organization, and they're convincing
Yep.
their executive leadership team that, hey, you know what, we do need a PMO in our organization. So they're already against the tide here, right? So not only are they against the tide, okay, we need a PMO, but okay, now I also need to tell you what a PMO should be, how it should be. It should be considered as a business unit, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of responsibility and burden, if you will, on a PMO leader or a PMO manager. Organizations outside, other organizations, third-party entities, vendors, consulting companies. What do you think is their responsibility to sort of change that mindset for people?
Yeah. So again, one of the advantages that they have, that these vendor companies have, is they provide the voice of the industry. They provide that recognized, hey, we're bringing in a big consulting firm, X consulting firm, whatever they are. And if they start changing that voice, leadership's going to listen. If they're paying $200, $300, $400 an hour, right? Leadership will go, oh yeah, maybe we should treat this as a business unit, right? But again, it all comes down to, again, the leadership level and the leadership maturity around that conversation, right? If you've got senior leaders that have seen successful PMOs in the past, then they're going to want the PMO managers to have a seat at the table and potentially treat them like finance, treat them like HR. But it does come down to that executive support. I mentioned that a lot in my book around, hey, you don't have executive support, you're in real trouble. So, and this is the same thing. These executives are the only ones that can say this PMO is just as important as HR or finance or IT.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, for me, a perfect PMO for a company is a PMO that that fits in the glove for the organization, right? So let's say for an organization needs a strategic PMO, or a PMO that focuses on the strategy aspects as well. That's perfect. Or if an organization, just needs at this point in time a PMO that just focuses on the standards and governance model and not so much strategy, that's fine too, right? But there's data out there that suggests that when a PMO actually achieves or sits on the same strategy table as the executives, that PMO has a larger probability of success, or rather has seen more success than other PMOs, right? So,
no question.
That data is pretty clear. And what that tells me also is, if we are able to find organizations where executives have accepted the fact that yes, PMOs are business units, they're perfect evangelists for this to spread the word and ride the cause for PMOs. And I think one thing that organizations, third-party organizations or enthusiasts of PMO like ourselves can do is find those executives, make them as poster childs and get their help to recruit the mind shift change that's needed.
Across other executives, right?
Exactly.
Because the executives talk to other executives in other companies all the time. And so a PMO manager is never going to get a seat at the table at a top executive, in a different company. It's got to go executive to executive. Yeah, no, totally agree. And that's a mind shift that we really need to happen to make this thing successful and to make PMO successful. And I think the PMO manager role is still relatively new. And there's a lot of accidental PMO managers out there. And the last thing that they're thinking about is, how do we make this thing a business unit? They're thinking about how to survive. And we also got to change that mindset on the PMO managers as well, or they won't survive. They'll do like I've done and shut down 6 or 7 of them so far. So, you know.
I mean, that is a reality, unfortunately, that we have to face, but then also work very consciously towards changing the fate.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
Awesome. Bill, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we shut down, one last thing, Bill, is for a PMO manager who's come in, who wants to go ahead and no matter what level of a PMO he or she is setting, um, they do need to consider and treat the PMO as a business unit.
Right.
They need to make sure that the organization, the leadership, the stakeholders considers the PMO as a business unit. What's the one thing that a PMO manager can do to help their cause in that?
Get executive support. Have that conversation with the executives, right? Be partnered with your executives, and not only doing a great job executing your PMO, but start changing that executive's mindset and start changing that thought process around, hey, we got to treat this as a business unit. We're just as important as finance, HR, IT, and all the other various groups out there. So it starts with getting that relationship with your executives.
Fantastic. Thanks a bunch, Bill. Once again, thanks for joining.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.